What's going on, fam? It's Quintrell back with another video. Listen, have you ever been in a job or work for an organization where you feel like you are navigating red tape? You feel like you are just stuck or just stifled by politics, or just being able to do your job. You're not able to be creative and do your job to its fullest capacity because you're navigating that bureaucracy. If that's you, I want you to stay tuned. We are going to tackle beating bureaucracy in this video.
Put on his head, I'm coming in high, I'm coming in quick, got what I got, I'm so content, he calling me big, running up chicks, running up, loving that flex, been on that marathon, yeah, I run at my pace, they loving the spread, foot on his neck.
Okay, so let's cut to it. This topic is really interesting. Whenever I start prepping for YouTube videos, I kind of brainstorm like some ideas, and this one really jumped up, and I kind of got nervous as I was writing this down because we get into a little bit of feelings and, you know, our organization cultures, and it can be really tricky. So how I'm gonna navigate this topic will be very interesting because I got to make sure that the past organizations that I work for that I won't mention, right? I got to make sure I keep this professional. But I think it's very important because I've learned throughout my 10 years working as a career coach, many of us have made decisions to change companies or change jobs because of the cultures, the organization cultures, right? So I think it's really important for us to talk about that. And so for me particularly, I come from a higher education background as well as working in state government, right? So these are organizations that are very structured, where everything has to be called into accountability. With accountability, with structure, comes a level of sort of expectations, and it creates just a culture where all of us have to be in alignment, right? As it should. Like if you have a product, you have a service for any business, all of us have to be accountable for the work that we do to make sure that we're producing the results that we are supposed to, right? However, unfortunately, many talented individuals, folks that have high skill level, that are proficient in the work that they do, organizations struggle to retain them, struggle to keep them, not because, you know, they're competing for market value for other organizations, but organizations struggle to keep talented people because they stifle them. They stifle their creativity. They force people to be in a box, or just juggling the dynamics of politics, juggling the dynamics of trying to accomplish a job. So let's dive into this. Let's dive into this challenge of bureaucracy. All right, so in order to make sure I'm staying on topic, I actually wanted to find a definition because I have this interpretation and this bias and understanding of what bureaucracy is, but I actually wanted to get a definition out there. So bureaucracy, according to Webster's dictionary, is a system of government in which most of the important decisions are made by state officials rather than by elected representatives. A state or organization governed or managed as a bureaucracy. The officials in a bureaucracy considered as a group or hierarchy. Excessively complicated administrative procedure seen as characteristic of bureaucracy. All right, so let's break this down. So simply put, bureaucracy has something to do with strategic decisions, big dog decisions being made at the top of the food chain. And secondly, bureaucracy has something to do with hierarchy. There's a level of structure and tiers for the employees that work for an organization. So if you can imagine maybe a pyramid, you know, at the very top of the pyramid, you got the big dog. So it might be a board of directors, CEOs, C-level suite executives. Then you have some kind of directors underneath or managers underneath that. And then as you get closer to the customer, further down that pyramid, you're talking about frontline workers, right? So associate workers, and then you sort of have your associates there. So just understanding hierarchy, right? In and of itself, that's not a bad thing. We need structure. We need structure. When we want to think about our organizations being competitive, accomplishing its goals, like these decisions are typically ushered in from the top, right? And folks that are closer to, you know, the customers, you know, we have to sort of implement the goals, right? So structure in and of itself is not a bad thing. All right, so Q, let's get to it. Like, why are we talking about bureaucracy? Bureaucracy is a challenge for individuals when we're stifled to be able to do our job. And we're stifled when we think about having to navigate relationships and navigate projects to accomplish a goal. So let me give you an example. When you are trying to maybe start a brand new program or start a new project at your organization, and you have to go through a bunch of red tape, you got to get approval from, maybe your boss or a group of stakeholders, and then that has to go up the chain to maybe your boss's boss, and eventually go up the chain to the CEO. That's an example of bureaucracy. That's called red tape, right? So navigating that over and over and over in your job, it can be taxing. It can be mentally stressful. It can be exhausting, right? So that's one aspect of bureaucracy. Another aspect of bureaucracy is when you have to operate in this box, a very refined set of limitations or expectations for your job, right? When you know that there is easily a better way to do something, an easier way to solve the problem, but yet you have to operate in these four corners or these four boundary lines of the box, that which is your job. That can be very frustrating, right? Oftentimes when you work for a bureaucratic organization, it's not exclusively like government agencies, but it can be any kind of organization, especially those that are large, where you have to sort of operate within certain jurisdiction. That can be frustrating. So that's another example of bureaucracy. Another example of bureaucracy is when you start to see people throw their weight around. This happens a lot with organizations that are trying to really change the culture for good or better. And you start to see maybe leaders or managers, directors start to throw their weight around in order to influence the folks that might be underneath them. The reason why I use that as an example is because if you're on the receiving end of that, that's very frustrating. That's very frustrating, getting told to do something and it might not even be the best decision. You see that somebody is making a decision to, make you feel uncomfortable or fearful for your job, right? Leader throwing their weight around. It's just a product of bureaucracy that's not necessary. It's not an exhaustive list, but I just want to give this as context, especially from seeing this for myself, but also folks that I've been able to work with. So I want to talk about this from two perspectives. One, as a professional, maybe you are the individual that's on a recipient or the receiving end, I should say, of just being in a bureaucratic organization. How can you navigate this like on a day-to-day basis, but also in the grand scheme of your career? On the flip side, on the second point, let's think about this as those of us that are cultural champions, leaders of organizations. How can we combat bureaucracy? So first, as professionals. So here's the deal. The reality is not everybody can just jump ship and change jobs. And I don't even recommend for everybody just to change jobs just because you're struggling with navigating bureaucracy. The reality is no organization is perfect. Every organization is vulnerable to change because of us, because of the people that work in them. So the point that I'm making here is you have to start to put tools in your toolkit in order to navigate working in a bureaucratic organization. One of those tools is being able to have crucial conversations. So one of the things that Crucial Conversations talks about is that when emotions are high, when stakes are high and opinions vary, this is a great opportunity to have a crucial conversation, meaning that we got to address people straight on. The more that you let a problem simmer, all right, the more that the expectation is kind of set and that culture is going to be continued to proliferate. So long story short, we have to learn how to have crucial conversations with our colleagues, with our leaders, with customers. The more that we can just attack this problem head on, the more we can actually dismantle being in a bureaucratic organization. However, I'm not naive to realize that in and of ourselves sometimes is not enough to overcome working in a bureaucracy. We have to learn to choose our battles. We have to learn how to protect our peace. I never forget it. I was working in college athletics, and just something that one of my colleagues told me, and I don't even think she meant it as something super deep, but she just told me straight up, Q, don't let nobody steal your joy, right? And that's always resonated with me. Like when I work in my world of work, we always work with people that are different from us, different personalities, but I'm more mindful as I get older that because we're different, because we have different backgrounds, I have to be mindful of not letting anybody steal my joy. So I say that to say that yes, having crucial conversations is one thing, but on the flip side, like, you have to kind of pick and choose your battle accordingly. So that's one aspect as a professional. I do think that sometimes we have to look at the long game, right? If we feel like our joy is being depleted, our peace is not being protected, I think that is a great opportunity to talk about just, should we be in this organization? What does a career change sort of look like? So just throwing that out there, right? Toolkits, crucial conversation, but long term, we definitely could consider, changing jobs, changing organizations. Now, on the flip side, those of us that are leaders, those of us that are influencers at our organizations, we have an opportunity to really dismantle the things that, keep talented people from staying at companies, right? So I think it's important to have a servant leadership mindset. Servant leadership meaning that you might be at the top of the food chain, you might have some influence and power, right? But you always have to look down at the folks that are lower on the food chain. What do they need to do their job? Do you find that they're running into just unnecessary red tape? Do you find that they don't have the resources that they need? Do you find that you just need to engage them, have a conversation about, learning more about who they are, seeing what their pain points are? The more that we can think of ourselves as servants, as a leader, we're going to be able to knock down those walls that are stifling folks. We're going to be able to knock down the bureaucracy in organizations. I just want to make sure we keep in mind that as leaders, we have a great opportunity to usher in change, right? And also want to acknowledge that all of us as professionals, when we work for an organization, at the end of the day, we all have a job to do. So alignment is one thing. We have to kind of humble ourselves to the greater cause and a greater mission. But also when we think about the culture, we have a great opportunity to just champion a different culture, a different company culture that we work in, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so hopefully that video was helpful. If you all need help, if you are in a position where you're looking to change careers or you just feel stuck in your careers, reach out to us. Visit our website at lenorecoaching.com. We have a lot of great resources. Our coaching services, we have our 60-day career course. We have a lot of things, including purpose-driven work, the book, helping you to align your career, your callings, and your purpose. If you need help, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You guys can shoot a message at info@lenorecoaching.com. Also, I am available on social media. Connect with your boy. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Listen, y'all have a blessed one, and we will talk very soon. Take care.
Put on his head, I'm coming in high, I'm coming in quick, got what I got, I'm so content, he calling me big, running up chicks, running up, loving that flex, been on that Marathon, yeah, I run at my pace, they loving the spread, foot on his neck.